Many of them now claiming their loved ones' mortal remains. But most importantly, all eyes now on Boeing Dreamliners. How fit are these airplanes to fly? And then we're going to take you through our deep dive segment, the Iran-Israel conflict. We're looking at Iran right now attacking Tel Aviv, and in response, Israel bombarding Tehran. Even as I speak, there have been strikes that have happened on both sides. The death toll mounts with nearly 240 on the Iranian side and about 18 people dead on Israel's land. All that news, as always, the headlines first. Prime Minister Modi awarded with the Order of Macarius III, the highest civilian honours of Cyprus. Modi says it's an honour not just for myself, but for 1.4 billion Indians. Cockpit voice recorder of Air India flight that crashed has finally been recovered. This will be key clue in the probe and investigation. It will piece together a lot of the details that are yet to be uncovered in the Ahmedabad plane crash tragedy. The centre now issues a notification for 16th census set to begin March 2027. 34 lakh personnel will be deployed for the same. Bike taxis have now been banned in Karnataka. Officially, the High Court now says bike taxis will go off-roads, no more allowed, because there aren't proper regulations by the state government. You, of course, have now the aggregators like Rapido, Ola, asking for the Siddaramaiah government to reverse this decision by ensuring set guidelines for bike taxis to operate. A letter has now been shot off all the way to Rahul Gandhi. Amid viral footage, controversy of a Rapido biker assaulting a woman has surfaced, but that came as a twist, with another CCTV footage later showing it was the woman who slapped the Rapido rider first. Though the man has been called in by the police, investigation is underway, but this is blown out on social platforms. IMD has now issued a red alert for Mumbai, Thane and Raigad. Heavy rain alerts for Karnataka, Kerala, Goa as well. And we're looking at KTR, but that man who was previously in government in Telangana appearing before ACB in Formula E scam probe calls the case politically driven against him. Challenges Chief Minister Revanth Reddy to a televised lie detector test. And Iran makes big claim, says Pakistan will drop a nuclear bomb on Israel if in fact Israel nukes Tehran. Islamabad, of course, denying the statement, but Iran has explicitly said it in a televised interview, saying Pakistan is on our side. They're going to attack Israel if Israel attacks us. US President Donald Trump vetoes Israel's plan to assassinate Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. In fact, US has said all along that it knew of Israel attacking Iran or its plans to do so, but never was involved. Now, Trump looking at playing the peacemaker between the two countries. All right, let me first cut across to the very tragic developments that are coming in after the Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad. We're looking at investigation that now deepens. Most importantly, the DNA matches. Finally, families have managed to get mortal remains of their loved ones, not all of them, just a few. 4 days since the crash, and the heartbreak is only getting heavier. India's worst air disaster in decades has left behind more than wreckage. It's left hundreds of families clinging to hope, crowding DNA testing counters at Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, desperate to know if the body they're getting is really their own. 270 people are dead. That includes 241 that were on board that flight and 29 on ground at the BJMC college. So far, just 99 people have been identified through their DNAs, and only 64 families have managed to get their loved ones' mortal remains. The rest are too charred to be recognized. Among the identified, former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani, he's one of them. Today we saw his funeral taking place. His body was handed over this morning. A full state funeral followed in Rajkot just a few hours ago. Very heartbreaking to see Vijay Rupani's family. In fact, Vijay Rupani was one of the 242 people on board that tragic incident in Air India flight AI 171 that crashed moments after it took off. Vijay Rupani was one of them on board. The London-bound Boeing 787 crashed on that BJMC college. It was a hostel that had medical students studying there. They were in fact having their lunch break at that point. So many of them were huddled at that very canteen. So the casualties are 241 plus nearly 26 at that college. And here are the scenes of funeral. More than 250 DNA samples have now been collected, all in all. But officials say many bodies were burnt beyond recognition. The wait could really stretch now for a few weeks. For many, closure may never even come. Incredibly, there was one survivor, Vishwa Kumar, who was assigned 11A seat, and he walked out unscathed. This man here, we can't speak enough about him. The way we see that bodies are charred inside that plane that crashed. Here's a man who was inside that very flight, not even in the rear, right in the front, but managed to escape with hardly any scars. For the others, the sons, daughters, students, parents, colleagues, only one question remains. Could this have been avoided? Why was this aircraft allowed to fly? Why was there no system flag off? In fact, if there was any fault, could that have been detected earlier on? As families now bury what's left of their loved ones, trust in the skies, people wanting to take flights have taken a big hit. In fact, at this point, there are several questions being raised about how safe is it to fly now across the globe. I'm not speaking of India alone. The India's aviation watchdog have a lot of answers to do, and most importantly, the flight makers. I'm going to take you through two of our panelists joining us, Captain Sanjay Karve, aviation expert and former accountable manager, aviation, Government of Maharashtra. Also Captain Akshay Chopra, former pilot, Indian Air Force and aviation expert. Thank you very much. Also joining me here is Captain Shyam Kumar, who's also an aviation expert. Before I get to what measures the Indian government or the ministry has taken to ensure the Boeings are safe to fly, I'd like to ask one word to Captain Sanjay Karve. There's a lot of blame now being pointed at the pilots of that unfaithful flight. Would you want to say or clarify the air around this? There's so much talk around the pilots having pulled the flap handle instead of the gear handle. It could be a human error, more or less looks like that. You know, there are the best of the best experts across the globe who are seated on digital platforms and giving their own theories. Unfortunately, both the pilots are no more. You really can't tell unless the black box is actually decoded. Investigation will give us a little on that much later, maybe 3 months to 4 months till that black box report actually comes out. Until then, pointing fingers at those pilots. Your take on that?
I really don't believe that the pilots would be at fault. They are highly trained professionals who have been flying this aircraft for years together, undergoing regular checks every 6 months, being assessed by different personnel. And it is incorrect and inhuman to make any statement against the pilots unless and until we have documentary evidence in form of CBR or the DFDR readout. Both the pilots were experienced pilots flying the same type of aircraft, that is the 787-800 series, for years together. And between them, they had 10,000 hours plus. Now, talking of flaps and undercarriage, both these levers in a 787 are placed too far apart. The flap lever is in the center console between the two pilots, and the landing gear lever is on the instrument panel where both the pilots can monitor. If in one word you're asking me one sentence, do you think it was a pilot error? My answer is no.
I'd ask the same question to Captain Akshay.
Yeah. So actually, Sir was absolutely right in this, and it's the easiest thing now to blame the pilot because you have the 787 involved. This is the biggest crash which has happened so far. Let me give you a very small and brief about Captain Sabharwal. He was not just a very, very experienced pilot with over 8,200 hours of flying, but also a trainer on type. He was among the first pilots to fly the 787. And believe me, if you actually see how the aircraft really went down in a beautiful level flight, I'm telling you, the captain must have tried everything in his experience to pull that flight as far as possible. And all these social media keyboard experts, we call them keyboard warriors. So all these people have their own weird opinions without having any knowledge of either aviation or how the the aircraft is flying and whatever observations. Even the best of the minds right now are not able to give you the right answer. We all are able to assess certain things looking at the visuals, hearing the ram air turbine coming in, the audible, and all those things are there. But everyone ultimately will tell you that these are all speculations based on observations. Rest, the black box will give you a clear picture.
Yeah, so we're waiting for that black box. A quick one. I will come to you, Captain Sham, on that.
Yeah, thank you, Jahind. Aviation is a risky operation, and being associated with the Flight Safety Department of Indian Armed Forces, and having analyzed many of the accidents to its detail and remedial measures, I would say that this is a situation which happens once in a while. Dreamliner 787 has a very good flight safety record. We go by statistics, we go by certain system analysis, and we go by certain actions which has happened in past when we learn lessons from them. Based on that, if you look at this aircraft, everything was fine. The aircraft has taken off in a proper manner, in a rotation of nose, wings level, symmetry, no yaw, nothing. And then the pilot gives a mayday call. It has crossed the parameter, undercarriage is down, and video is very clear. There is no yaw, no jerk, so there is no single engine failure. It appears to be, and also bird heat or ingestion of any FOD, etc. It doesn't look like, and both the engine are losing thrust slowly, and aircraft has got same nose. It is not able to climb, and it is reported as loss of thrust and not able to climb, pulling up. But he has then kept the cool and gone ahead. God forbid if we had a safe landing space ahead of the perimeter, the aircraft was going very nicely to carry out a landing, and it was in a landing configuration almost, as we see. So this is just this much, 27 seconds go, and that is what has happened. Now, why there is a loss of thrust? So we don't, as your question goes, we don't say that, we cannot say that it was a pilot error, because at this moment of time, abandoning takeoff is one issue where there is a requirement in case there is no sufficient thrust. If the pilot realized that he is not able to get the sufficient speed on ground, the wind speed was about 10 kilometers per hour, about its temperature 41, 42 degrees centigrade, hot and humid weather. Both the engines were fit, and this aircraft is capable to even carry out single engine takeoff, although the configuration would be different. This state was fully loaded.
What explains this, sir? Then what explains this?
It was going to Gatwick, and obviously the Pakistan airspace closed, so it has to take a diversion, and therefore extra fuel, diversionary requirements. A lot of things happen. Flight safety, air operations have a lot of flight safety integrated into it, and all this is every time done as per SOP. The aircraft is ground checked properly, everything is done, the crew carries out the servicing 3-line system, the work, the junior level, the supervisor, the flight engineer, and the pilot takes over. Then there are many cross safety redundancies in the equipment itself. And as I said, it's a very capable aircraft with single engine takeoff capability.
All right, so the aircraft is capable, the pilots are capable. One really wonders what really explains this mishap. But before I go further, I'd like our viewers to take a quick note at the Indian government now taking cognizance of the allegations against Boeing. After multiple issues that have cropped up in the 787 Dreamliner fleet across the world, it appears now the Indian government, post the Air India Dreamliner air crash, have now decided to check all our planes, all 787 Boeing Dreamliners that are assembled with the Air India fleet. After India's deadliest air crash in decades, eyes now focused on Boeing Dreamliners and whether it's really safe to fly in them. Just a day ago, a team of 10 US officers from the National Transportation Safety Board and the FAA landed in Ahmedabad. Their mission, of course, to investigate what went wrong with the Air India Flight 171, the Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner. The plane went down minutes after it took off on 12th of June, killing 241 people, including the 2 pilots, 12 crew members. Of course, 1 person survived, as we mentioned. Now there's a breakthrough here. Investigators have recovered the cockpit voice recorder. This device captures everything from the pilot's conversations to the cockpit alarms. It will be examined thoroughly along with the flight data recorder, which stores the aircraft's altitude, its speed, its engine and performance. Now, together, these two really form what really is called the black box. The buzzword that's now going around, that the black box will hold the truth. Well, yes, these are the 2 machines that comprises of 1 black box. That's what you see on our screens there. The most crucial evidence in the Air India crash probe. Now, back home, of course, in India, government at this point, Civil Aviation Ministry, particularly the Minister Ram Mohan Naidu, says 8 Dreamliners have already now been checked thoroughly and they are safe. The DGCA inspects now another 34 Boeing 787s that are flying in India currently. So, thorough checks and sanitization of these aircrafts are currently being carried out as I speak. Just in the past 48 hours, 2 Dreamliners were forced to turn back mid-air. Now that again raises a lot of questions about the fitness of these aircrafts. 2 of the Dreamliners, one with British Airways, a flight that was to go to Chennai, circled for hours in the air before returning to Heathrow from where it took off. That's the flight there you see, weird smoke that's coming right to the wings of it. And Air India, another flight that actually went back was Air India flight from Hong Kong to Delhi, returned again back to Hong Kong after takeoff, where the pilot suspected some kind of technical snag. So it seems like there are some issues cropping up repeatedly with the Boeing fleet, 787 Dreamliners. Both planes that I just mentioned here landed back safely, but these back-to-back scares certainly now raising a lot of questions. Remember the Boeing whistleblower? He had called out the Dreamliner, the fleet of Dreamliners. In fact, that's the man, Sam Salehpour, who called out Boeing for poor assembling of these Dreamliners. He in fact called these Dreamliners a ticking time bomb. He says they were aligned in a very poor, haphazard manner. There were lots of laxities when it comes to manufacturing and safety checks of these Boeing 787s. Precisely what the whistleblower working within the company said. Let's break it down. A quick look. In 2013, the entire Dreamliner fleet was grounded after battery fires were reported. In recent years, gaps in the fuselage, faulty parts, even tools left inside the planes during assembly were reported. In 2021, deliveries were stopped over safety concerns. And now in 2025, this particular crash marks Dreamliner's first ever full loss since it entered service. Once billed as really the future of flying, Boeing's Dreamliner is now facing its biggest test yet. The investigation is far from over. One question, of course, is echoing across the globe. Did Boeing gamble with lives, pushing this aircraft so quick? Let's listen in.
When the incident happened, we also felt that there is a need to do an extended surveillance into the Boeing 787 series. So from the DGCA, we have also given an order to do the extended surveillance for the 787 planes. There are 34 in our Indian aircraft fleet today. I believe that 8 have already been inspected, and then with immediate urgency, all of them are going to be done. And furthermore, as the investigation is going to proceed and the report is going to come, whatever necessary steps are needed to be taken, we are going to ensure that without any hesitation, we are going to improve every necessary thing that is going to come our way to improve the safety.
All right. Let me go back to our panelists who are with us. In fact, what we see here clearly is the Indian government at this point deciding that they're going to test every one of their Boeing 787s, because clearly at this point we lack trust in Boeing as a firm, with employee of Boeing itself calling out the firm of mismanagement, of using faulty parts, of manufacturing defects. And that speaks for a lot, because you have Boeing 787 Dreamliners across every country's major airline that's really bought those planes. So India is no different. We have 34 of them. Is it safe to fly? Captain Sanjay Karve, would you want to chime in?
This aircraft was designed right from the scratch to meet the gap between 737 and the 747. The work started in 2006-2007 and the first aircraft flew commercially in 2011. Today, there are about 1,135 787s flying all over the world. Yes, there have been issues with the Boeing manufacturing thing. People are complaining that Boeing has become more profit-oriented than safety-oriented, which once upon a time was Boeing's hallmark, safety. There was a standard phrase some decades ago that if it's not a Boeing, I'm not going. Today, it's the other way around. But as an individual, I refuse to believe that any airline manufacturer would gamble with human life. No aircraft manufacturer
I suppose we've just lost his connection there, but Captain Akshay Chopra, would you want to jump in on that, please? We're looking at
sure.
a lot of defects within the Boeing fleet. Air India right now checking all their 34 flights, Dreamliners. Thorough process is underway. Ram Mohan Naidu, the Civil Aviation Minister, has ordered for these checks. But what and how much can our aviation industry or experts within our country really understand on the defects of it? If anything, it would be Boeing experts who can really pinpoint what's wrong.
Okay, so first thing first, the picture which you showed, the video which you just showed, it was not some smoke coming out. It was basically the aircraft dumping the fuel, which just happened in one of the recent cases. So this is generally done when the aircraft landing weight is not there. So it gets lighter by dumping the fuel to get into the landing configuration. And it was one of the recent incidents with Boeing. However, look, if you look at the past record of Boeing or Airbus or Bombardier or Comac or Embraer, any of these aircraft companies, they'll all have certain incident accidents, and it's a part of aviation. That's what all comes under the aviation safety gamut. Immediately blaming the finest aircraft, 1,200 plus aircrafts are flying around the world. And this is the first of its kind incident where the engines have failed. So look, whatever problems 787 has seen earlier have also been there with multiple other aircrafts. We also, of course, we didn't expect this with the 787 being such a top of the line aircraft that, there was a battery fire, there were flap malfunctions and minor other issues. However, this is not something which is linked to total, engines losing thrust. The engines which the Dreamliner carries are GE next generation engines. They're so powerful that one engine is powerful enough to carry the entire aircraft in full loaded configuration across the Atlantic. They're so powerful aircrafts. It is the rarest of the rarest incident where both the engines are losing thrust and the aircraft is going down. So now if we suddenly start, of course, the other incident which we just saw with the Boeing after this incident is not something which I'll consider major ones. They're more into limelight after the AI 717 crash, but these incidents are happening around the world with multiple other aircrafts also, if we actually notice. Of course, Boeing 787 has to be inspected, there is no doubt, and there'll be big questions already occurring in the international arena. But then right now, just saying that, okay, is Boeing 100% at fault? No, I'll not accept this thing, because there is no way that you can fly an aircraft. It's not Boeing who is responsible only. That's just the company. Then international bodies out there, Indian DGC is there, FAA is there. Everybody inspects every single aircraft before it gets.
So they are very well aware of all the parts and fittings, even the Indian side. If India has bought these airplanes from Boeing, they are very well in the know of the mechanism, its manufacturing material, all of it. You're saying they're thoroughly aware.
Look, I'll give you a very simple example. Let's take only the 787 fleet. Except the incident that just happened, the AI 717, which of course we are all very worried about. Please tell me a single incident in last so many years since the time this aircraft came in that actually tells us this is one of the most, it's a very dangerous aircraft, or it's not capable of flying. There's nothing.
No, it hasn't. But even the whistleblower who called out Boeing for shoddy manufacturing said clearly that they attempted to try to fix the parts by jumping on it, doing things that were not really necessary, or more importantly, that wasn't the finest of process to actually make that airplane. They try to cost cut and cut corners in many ways where it brings down the lifespan of the aircraft. When he says it brings down the lifespan of the aircraft, and in fact one of his interviews he did say that post 10-11 years there could be faults that will start showing of the Boeing aircrafts. What does that mean? It means the passengers will have to bear the brunt of it maybe mid-air.
Look, now another question occurs from this whistleblower. So the first thing is, Boeing has a fleet of multiple aircrafts. Why did this happen with the latest and the finest aircraft? If this is the case with Boeing, that it has been cutting corners, and I'm sure this is with every other company, it is just Boeing which is in limelight today. Why isn't it happening, or such an incident, or double engine failure, or such a massive crash happened before with other older aircrafts? We are also flying those aircraft from Boeing. So such incident has never happened. What is concerning people is not, it's not Boeing we are immediately to blame. It's a big company. It's a very, very old aviation and one of the top in the world. We cannot just say, okay, they're cutting corners. When an aircraft comes into a flight mode where a company operates the aircraft, there are hundreds and thousands of checks at every single step before an aircraft even takes off. Let me give you an example of this particular aircraft. People have been questioning, giving weird questions out there. The moment it landed in Ahmedabad from Delhi, it is inspected. There are top class technicians who are inspecting this aircraft. Only then it takes off. And even before that, let's say you start the aircraft. If there is a minor malfunction in the aircraft is so capable, the avionics are so advanced, the electronics are so advanced, it will give indication of even the slightest of the malfunction to the pilot. And what is even more concerning?
What happened? If that's the case, what explains what happened? What happened? Has there been a case study or a similar example you want to quote?
No, so that's why, look, that is what is the most concerning thing, and why every aviation expert ultimately has, they've sealed their lips. I'll tell you what the two most concerning things. Number one, this has not happened to a age-old aircraft. This is the top of the line aircraft, number one. Second, when the aircraft rolled, when the aircraft was, runs on the runway before the takeoff, there's a speed called V1. So if we achieve V1, after that we have to take off. Before that, if there is a minor error or any kind of a problem which comes in the aircraft, snag which comes, the pilot detects it and he basically refuses to take off. He rejects the takeoff and he has the capability to do so. It means there was absolutely no indication on the avionics or any problem with the aircraft while he was running on the runway. The moment he took off, within 200 feet, now this is the most concerning thing everybody is concerned about. Within 200 feet, what exactly happened that the finest aircraft starting going down in a level flight? Please understand the word level flight. As the other panelists very clearly said, when the aircraft, if there was a single engine failure, you will see that the aircraft will be doing left-right, in terms of the movement. The nose was absolutely straight, the wings were level. Number two, if the lone survivor who was there, if you listen to his interview, he very clearly said that after taking off, within some seconds, there was a complete blackout in the cabin and the emergency lights came out. So this means there was total electrical failure, number one, which is very shocking. Why? Because there are 3 backups in this aircraft. So why didn't the backups come up? Number one. Number two, the landing gears were down. The landing gears cannot be down. It is that either it is 100% hydraulic failure, of course, because it's total electrical failure, or the pilot must have thought that I'll be able to land back. But even more importantly, the engines were losing thrust. They were losing power. In simple terms, when you, let's say you're in a car and you're trying to press the accelerator, but the engines are not responding, they're just shutting down. This is exactly what happened in both the engines. That's why in the end, if you listen to the audio of the the crash, the ram air turbine, that it's a two-blade propeller which came out, it comes out in the last moment of an emergency, and it is capable of generating ample power to let the aircraft fly and at least come back in emergency.
But that was too low for the plane to recover from
So
there.
the timing and everything, all this basically fell in line in such a critical manner that the finest of the pilots were not able to handle it. Now, one more thing very important is the aircraft, as I said, went down in a level flight. It did not go left and right. The pilot, with all his experience, must have tried every possible thing to push the aircraft and make sure that, he's able to land it somewhere. In my entire life, I have taken off my transport aircraft either from Baroda airfield or from Ahmedabad airfield. So there is no such problem. It's not that a flock of birds suddenly comes and hit you and both engines go down in a 787. It's a very unlikely situation. So this is the question
I'm going to take the final word from Captain Shyam Kumar, as I'm short on time. Captain Shyam Kumar, your final take on this. If it does not look like what Captain Chopra said, then what, in your view, is the best scenario that could have played out?
Firstly, let me take the audience into confidence. Aircraft safety is a very complex operation.
Yeah.
We carry out checks very clearly, and air safety is a very, very, very stringent operation. And it goes with operation. Air safety goes with operation. Human error, negligence, judgment, material failure, fatigue failure, malfunction of engines are all categorized. They are checked. And incidents are different. Accidents are different. Wide-bodied aircraft world over has 0.027 per million departure. That means in 1 million departure, only 0.027 accidents, fatal or otherwise, have happened where we have lost the hull of the aircraft, or we lost the aircraft totally, or we had a fatal accident. Otherwise, world over, the opinion again, 1 million flights, 0.77 accidents have taken place. Incidents are minor. The aircraft which returned back, these are called incidents. This is an accident, which is called major accident. Number one. Number two, you see this aircraft was 26 in sequence of 1137 aircrafts, which is flying world over, and there has been no fatal accident of Dreamliner so far. Number three, 1 million flights have taken place so far for Dreamliners, and 30,000 million hours have been flown without any major accident. These are the flight statistics of this aircraft. Our audience must get into confidence that one day Murphy Law will take place. Switch cheese model of the aviation safety explains all this, that the day all the things align together, this happens. This will be checked by Aircraft Accident Board, which is their independent body under civil aviation, and DGCA is already doing, NTSB is here, FIA is here. There are many bodies who will carry out checks.
So in your view, it's not to worry. It's not to worry. This is a freak case, a freak accident. Nothing to worry. The loss of trust there is among people, which naturally will hold for a little longer, can be put aside, and you can, show some kind of trust in the aviation. You're saying there are thorough checks and levels and layers of inspections that happen. So this is a rarest of the rare case that turned into a tragedy. I will close though. I know we lost Captain Sanjay's line at that point when you were just about to complete. Captain Sanjay, I'll let you complete your point before I wrap here.
Okay, what we need to understand as a common man or a man on the street or man in aviation, we have been discussing this issue for last 72 hours.
Yeah.
Sitting in our AC comfort, and we have still not been able to come to a conclusion. Think of the plight of the crew. Something has happened from B1 till the time he is given a mayday call, which is not even 7 seconds. That means something has happened in 7 seconds. And now we are trying to sit on judgment on those 7 seconds, on those two guys who have flown the aircraft till the time has hit the ground. I am using the word flown the aircraft. You please look at the aircraft. If there was no building, probably, I'm saying probably he would have landed the aircraft with some amount of damage. So let's not jump to conclusion. Let's not be in a hurry to blame anyone. It is one of those freak accidents where you have had loss of thrust. We need to find out why. We need to rectify, and let's have confidence in the aviation system all over the world as such. Let's not blame the aviation system. It's a very safe system and it's a very safe environment to be in.
Captain Sanjay Karve, Captain Akshay Chopra and Captain Sham, really appreciate your time. A quick break. We'll be right back with a lot more. Stay with us.
Scorpio N Carbon is here, the big daddy of SUVs.
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
This is the drive of your dreams.
You and I, we are dreamers. You and I, we are believers.
Introducing the all-new Skoda Kailak. Own your dream.
Skoda. A deep dive into what matters to you the most. Angles you won't find anywhere else. News that impacts your life.
Welcome back. I'm cutting straight across to the ongoing war, escalation, either way that you call it, Iran, Israel at loggerheads. Let me take you through the latest. A terrifying night in Tehran. Massive explosions have rocked the Chitgar area with unverified footage at this point showing fiery blasts near Chitgar Lake, long suspected by some to conceal underground military facilities. Here we're looking at Tehran being bombarded by Israel. Chitgar, Tehran, I'm going to repeat, is said to be an area to conceal underground military facilities. And that's precisely the target. Iran currently under attack by Israel. There's been no official word yet from Iranian authorities on the casualties or the extent of damage there in Tehran particularly. Speculation, of course, running high. As we see here, Israel has reportedly struck Iran's state television in the big brazen attack. Here's a quick look. Mid-broadcast, Israel's attack strikes at an Iranian television network's office. Viewers watched in shock as the studio caught fire while anchors were live on air. Iranian journalists themselves posted videos from inside the chaos. There you have it. While the anchor was anchoring mid-air on live TV, Israel strikes straight at that TV network station. And you have fire that's seen right behind the anchor while she was anchoring live. Live on air, the fire catches behind and she was rushed out of her seat. There you have it. Well, I'm going to tell you yet again, no confirmation from Tehran on this attack, but these are visuals that have been put out by Iran itself. Journalists there putting out these videos and footage showing Israel's attack on Iran's news television channel's office. A live TV broadcast that was underway was stopped midway with Israeli attack. In fact, the Israeli attack hit straight at that TV network's headquarters. And you saw the anchor while she was anchoring live on TV had to run for safety. No confirmation from Tehran on this attack, but I will mention that journalists from Iran have put out these videos. The world, of course, watching very closely as tensions now only escalating within the region. Tehran reels from one of the most visible attacks in recent history. As we know, Iran, of course, has attacked parts of Israel, killing 18 people in Israel. It was Israel who began the attack while first targeting nuclear facilities in Iran, just going back to a few days ago. And now it appears after Iran retaliated, Israel has come back heavy and hard, continues to bombard Iran on multiple levels. In fact, here you have, in the latest, a news office in Iran, while news live coverage was underway, an attack that struck the news television's headquarters. The anchor was forced to run for safety. This conflict only now thickening. In fact, Israel strikes a military base in Tehran as well. These are visuals and images that are coming to light. As we see here, live images, and this is just from a little while ago, images there showing how areas of Tehran have been bombarded by Israeli attacks. Strikes that continue unabated. A barrage of missiles that have been struck at Tehran in Iran, and that particularly, revisiting that very video there where that anchor is anchoring live on air. She's clearly talking about the Israeli attacks, while one happens right behind her at that studio. There you have it. She had to literally stand up and run for cover. That's a live anchoring that was stopped midway in Iran. Now, these are multiple attacks that are being reported, not just on the TV headquarters there, but we know that Iran's oil fields have been targeted. Apart from that, of course, the nuclear scientists who were killed, the nuclear bases where they were developing the nuclear weapon, we hear is now being fully down to rubble. Let me quickly bring in our guests joining us. Itai Meshior, former executive, Israeli National Security Council, joining us live from Haifa. Thank you very much. Lieutenant General Rameshwar Roy, who's a defense and geopolitical expert. Appreciate both of you for taking your time. Itai, a quick take on the video that I see on our screens here of a news anchor, news television anchoring that was stopped midway. You had the anchor run for cover and safety. Is that Israel's strike? Would you confirm that? Sir, could you unmute yourself?
Yes, sorry. Israel warned in advance that they were going to target this station, which was inciting against Israel.
Right.
They gave a warning to civilians, even in the region, to evacuate so they won't become in harm's way.